The sun in Lagos is not kind. It doesn't care if you are rich or poor. It burns without mercy. But Morenike had learned to use it. She knew that the sight of her standing under that blazing heat, sweating and tired, would melt even the hardest heart. She stood at the junction of CMS bus stop, where the traffic never slept. The twins slept soundly in her arms, their tiny heads pressed against her chest. When the traffic lights turned red, she moved from car to car, bowing her head humbly. "Please, help me, God bless you," she would say. Sometimes her voice broke like an old radio, deliberate, rehearsed. Some drivers would reach into their pockets. Some would sigh and look away. But enough of them gave her money. 50 naira, 100, sometimes even 1,000. By evening, the sun dipped into the lagoon and the sky turned orange. The wind began to blow gently, carrying the smell of the sea. And Morenike, clutching her bowl of money, would disappear into a narrow street behind the market. Behind those streets, she had a small wooden room, no windows, just one flickering bulb. There she would count the money carefully. And when she thought no one could see her, she smiled. Because the truth was, those twins were not hers. When night falls in Lagos, it doesn't get quiet. It only changes rhythm. The day's noise turns into music from roadside bars, distant laughter, and the whisper of the sea breeze. That night, the moon rose over the lagoon, silver and watchful. It looked down upon the city as if it knew that, somewhere below, a secret was growing like a shadow. Morenike laid the babies down on a mat. They were peaceful. Too peaceful for children who had been out all day. She hummed a lullaby, her voice soft but cold. These babies, she told herself, were her blessing. She borrowed them from a young woman in her compound, Mama Toby, who trusted her. At first, it was just for an hour. Then an hour became a day. Then it became her business. She told Mama Toby she was taking them for a walk to get fresh air, but, in truth, she took them to the market, where pity was profitable. Every night she hid the day's earnings in a small metal box under the floorboards. Her greed grew like a wild vine. The moonlight touched her face through the cracks in the wall, and for a moment her eyes glistened like wet glass. She whispered to the night, "Just a little longer, just one more week." But the moon, pale and silent, said nothing, only watched. By the next morning, Lagos awoke again to chaos. The sun climbed like a fiery king, and the wind danced between the yellow buses. People began to notice her, not because of her kindness, but because of her consistency. How could someone beg every day with the same babies who never grew, never cried too loud, and always seemed too calm? A trader, 𝐬𝐿K'𝐫𝐬, who sold pap by the roadside, started to whisper. "That woman, ain't? Those twins don't look like her," she told a shoe shiner. "I think she'd use them do business," the man replied. Their voices spread faster than the breeze. By afternoon, everyone around CMS and Balagun had heard of the woman with the borrowed twins. Some wanted to confront her, some pitied her still, but all were curious. That day, when she arrived with the babies as usual, she noticed eyes following her. Even the birds perched on electric wires seemed to watch silently, their heads tilting. As if they too knew her secret, she forced a smile and continued to beg. "Please, for the twins' sake," she said to a young woman in a tinted car. The woman dropped a N500 note, but kept staring. Something in her heart didn't feel right. Week later, the sun came out early and harsh. It was one of those Lagos days when even the shadows sweat. Morenike wore her usual wrapper, tied the babies, and walked to her spot. But unknown to her, Mama Toby, the real mother of the twins, had returned from the village. She had gone for a burial and left her babies in the care of a trusted neighbor. When she came back, she found out that Morenike had taken them out again. Out? "For the 4th time this week?" she asked. Something in her heart sank. She decided to follow her quietly. From a distance, she saw 𝐬𝐿𝐼 standing by the roadside, the babies in her arms, begging from passing cars. Her world stopped. Her heart broke into 1,000 pieces as she watched. Strangers dropped money into a bowl held beside her children. 𝐬𝐿𝐼! She screamed, her voice shaking the air. The crowd turned. Even the wind paused. 𝐬𝐿𝐼 froze, her body stiff like wood. The coins in her bowl trembled as the truth fell from the sky. People rushed around. Traders abandoned their stalls. Drivers parked their buses halfway through the road. "Mama Toby, now you're picking 𝐶𝐸 carry?" shouted 𝐸𝐵𝐽, Mama Toby. Tears streaming down her face, grabbed her twins and held them tightly. 𝐬𝐿𝐼, you use my babies beg for money? God will judge you. The sun, now high above, seemed to glare at 𝐬𝐿𝐼 like an angry witness. Her sweat turned cold. Her tongue went dry. I was just helping," she stammered, but the people were no longer listening. The crowd swelled like a storm. Phones came out. Someone began to record. The wind picked up, swirling dust around her feet. A police van soon arrived, its siren slicing through the noise. She was dragged into the van, her scarf falling off. The bowl of coins spilled onto the street, rolling in every direction like lost secrets. And as the van drove away, the sky darkened. Suddenly, even though it was midday, thunder rumbled from afar. It was as if the heavens themselves had come to witness her downfall. That evening, Lagos was wrapped in silence. Then came the rain, heavy, wild, and cleansing. It washed the dust from the roads, the lies from the air, and the shame from people's tongues. In the police station, 𝐬𝐿𝐼 sat on a wooden bench, dripping wet. Her scarf clung to her face, her tears mixing with the rain. An officer placed a small metal box on the table in front of her, the same box they found under her floor. When they opened it, bundles of cash spilled out, thousands upon thousands of naira, money she had gathered from pity, from lies, from people who thought they were saving a struggling mother. The officer sighed. "So this is how you made millions? By using children that are not yours?" She said nothing. Only the rain outside answered for her, beating hard on the iron roof. The moon rose again that night, soft and pale, reflecting off the wet streets. Somewhere in the station, the twins slept peacefully in a blanket, unaware of the storm they had survived. Days passed. Lagos moved on as it always did, fast, loud, and unbothered. But the story of the woman who used twins to beg spread across markets and streets. People began to look differently at those who begged with babies. Some turned away in suspicion. Others became more careful with their pity. 𝐬𝐿𝐼 remained in custody, awaiting trial. Sometimes at night she would hear the wind whistling through the bars. It sounded like voices, the same voices of those who once pitied her, now whispering the truth. The sun still rose every morning, but it no longer warmed her skin. The moon still glowed at night, but it no longer comforted her heart. In her loneliness, she finally understood something the city had been trying to teach her all along. You can fool people, but you cannot fool nature. The same sun that blessed her had also exposed her. The same wind that cooled her had carried her secret away. Weeks later, when Mama Toby visited her in the station, she didn't come with anger. She came with quiet sadness. 𝐬𝐿𝐼 fell on her knees. "Please forgive me. I didn't mean harm. I just wanted to survive." Mama Toby looked at her for a long time, then said softly, "Survival is not stealing. You used innocence for gain. Even God frowns at that." Her voice trembled like the rustling of dry leaves. Then she added, "I forgive you, but may the sun never hide the truth from you again." Tears rolled down 𝐬𝐿𝐼's cheeks. For the first time in many years, she felt the wind touch her face, not harshly, but gently, as if saying, learn, change. When she was finally released months later, she returned to the same streets, but this time, she carried no babies. She sold oranges under a big mango tree near the hill at Ikoyi, working quietly from sunrise to sunset. Every time the birds flew above her, chirping freely, she looked up and smiled faintly. She had learned that truth, like light, always finds its way through cracks. One evening, as the sun melted into the horizon and the moon began to rise, 𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸 packed her oranges into a basket and sat down beneath the tree. Children played nearby, their laughter blending with the soft sound of the waves from the lagoon. The wind was calm. The city lights flickered like stars. She whispered to herself, "The same Lagos that punished me also gave me another chance." She closed her eyes and let the wind brush against her face. The moonlight fell on her gently, forgivingly, and for the first time in a long while, she felt peace. Because even though the city never forgot her story, it also never forgot the lesson. That truth, like the sun, always rises, and the wind, the moon, and the birds will always carry it for all to see. Moral of the story: no lie lasts forever. The sun will expose what the moon has seen. The wind will carry whispers to ears that need to hear them, and the birds will sing the truth across the city skies.